Yes, good afternoon, dear viewers. I'm your regular tutor and host, Damilare Akiludi. Do well to subscribe to my channel, Damilare Akiludi on YouTube. Please subscribe, click on the bell and on all so you get all notifications. Do well to share the videos and tell somebody else about it. It's basically for chemistry and biology. Okay, I'm very sure you will find it extremely intellectual. This afternoon we shall be studying transportation in plants. Just as we have transportation in animals, so we do have transportation in plants. Transportation in plants. What do we mean by transportation in plants? How is transportation in plants achieved? Where is it actually taking place? All these shall be answered as we continue in the class. The word transportation in plants, okay, is telling us about some three terminologies. Number one, translocation, transpiration, and absorption. Those are the three processes. Transportation of materials in plants is aided by translocation, transpiration, and translocation. So what do we mean by all these terms? When we say transpiration, when we say transportation, and when we say absorption of the materials, what is being absorbed? How are they being absorbed? What is the process involved? Okay, we are going to do serious work in studying them. Now, when you say translocation, what do we mean by translocation? The word translocation has to do with movement of food substances. Don't forget, I said the four terms that the transportation in plant is aided by some four phenomena. Please, let's get that again. I apologize, I said 3 the other time. 4, please. Translocation, transpiration, absorption of water and mineral salts, and transport of water in silent plants. Transport of water in silent plants. Okay, the first we are going to take is the transport of mineral salts in plants. Experiment which involves the use of radioactive isotopes show that mineral salts are carried in solution in the xylem vessels. Don't forget that in the xylem vessels of the roots and stems to the leaves of plants. Research has shown that, and experiments, that mineral salts are conducted or are moved in the xylem vessels of the roots and stems of the leaf and xylem vessels of the roots and stems to the leaves of plants. So it's coming from the roots, the mineral salts, it gets to the stem, and from the stem it goes to the leaves. Now, these mineral salts obtained from the soil are present in form of either a calcium ion, magnesium ion, or potassium ion. Of course, you know that these minerals are also present in the soil, and they are present in very dilute solution, which are in the form of water around in the soil particles. Hence, they are absorbed into the plants by means of root hairs. So there is higher concentration of mineral salt in the root hairs, cells than in the soil. We have higher concentration of minerals in the root hairs, cells than in the soil. Now, the reason for this is that it's actually being moved up, and at a point it becomes even higher, more than what you have in the soil. There would have been a net flow of ions, provided if osmosis alone is the means of transportation. Okay, there would have been a net flow of ions. That is, if osmosis alone, but osmosis alone is not only the means of transpiration, it's not only the means of transportation. Okay, so another means of transportation which allows the transport of mineral salts into the root hairs is by active transport. is by active transport. And now, what is active transport? Now, water is absorbed by osmosis. In the last videos, we have been told that active transport also involves the movement of substances, which involves the use of energy because of different concentration gradients. So water is absorbed by osmosis, a form of diffusion along a concentration gradient, while mineral salt is absorbed by active transport against concentration gradient. Water is absorbed by osmosis, a form of diffusion. So the movement of water from the soil to the roots is by osmosis. But the movement of minerals from the roots, from the soil to the roots, is by active transport, because it has to involve energy. Energy is involved, and it has to involve concentration gradient into the root hairs. Now, mechanism of transportation in plants. Mechanism of transportation in plants. Transportation pull is defined as the force behind the rose of water, the rise. Transportation pull is defined. Transportation pull is defined as the force behind the rise of water up to the top of the tall trees, and it occurs in the following manner. We are going to consider the manner it occurs. But when we talk of transportation pull, we talk of the force that brings in the water from the soil through the roots up the top trees, and the manner it does follow are: number one, through the stomata. The stomata is a pore in the leaf, or we say through the leaf pores. Cells adjacent to it lose water by transpiration. Cells adjacent to it, they lose water by transpiration. The cell sap in the xylem cells close to the xylem. The cell sap in the xylem cells close to the xylem vessels in the nearby veins are less concentrated than the cell sap lateral in those cells. The cell sap, another way is that through the cell sap. The cell sap is the fluid, that comes out, the white thick fluid that comes out when you break the stem or the leaf. It is a medium of transportation because it allows movement of the nutrients or water. So another way it moves is by what? The cell sap in the xylem cells close to the xylem vessels in the nearby veins are less concentrated than the cell sap, which are lateral in those cells. And as a matter of fact, which have lost water, and by osmosis, water passes from the cell to cell from the xylem cells in the veins near the stomata to the cells nearest the stomata. So another means by which transportation takes place in plants is, we are studying the mechanism. Another mechanism, the first mechanism is what we said as stomata or leaf pores. The second is through the cell sap. Now the third mechanism by which transportation takes place is the cell sap of the xylem cells in the veins near the stomata become more concentrated as they lose water more to the solution in the xylem vessel. They lose water more to the solution in the xylem vessels adjacent to them. Now let us consider conditions affecting the rate of transpiration. At first, what is transpiration? Transpiration is defined as the loss of excess amount of water or water vapor from the surface of the leaf to the atmosphere. Now, transportation is, there are three types of transportation. The three types of transportation we have are stomata transpiration, lenticel or lenticular transpiration, cortical or corticular transpiration. Stomata transpiration is the loss of excess water from the surface of the leaf to the atmosphere. You do not say stomaticular transpiration, you rather say stomata transpiration. Now, what is lenticel transpiration? Lenticel transpiration is the loss of excess amount of water or excess water from the lenticel of the stem to the atmosphere. So when water is lost from the stem, from the lenticel of the stem, you see lenticular transpiration. Now, the third transpiration is cortical transpiration or corticular transpiration. In cortical transpiration or corticular transpiration, it is the loss of excess amount of water from the corticals of the stem also to the atmosphere. So those are the three types of transpiration and the definition of transpiration. Please note that transpiration is also called guttation. Transpiration is also called guttation. Now, the rate at which water vapor is lost by a plant depends on number of factors which include size of the stomata pores, size. So the bigger the size of the stomata pore, the greater the rate of loss of water. So when stomata opens to the turgidity, of the gas cells, transpiration takes place. Don't forget, turgidity is defined as the condition in which a plant cell absorbs water and it becomes what? Firm. Okay, when stomata opens to the turgidity of the gas cell, transpiration takes place, while flaccidity of the cell causes the gas cell to close and prevent transpiration. Please take note of those terms. When stomata opens to the turgidity of the gas cell, transpiration takes place. Of course, what that means is that when the gas cells open up, okay, the stomata also open, water from it is escaped to the atmosphere. Now, flaccidity is the shrinking, a condition where a plant cell loses more water, more than it can absorb. So it causes it to what? To shrink, okay, or to become flaccid. Flaccidity of the cell causes the gas cell to close up and prevent transpiration. So when flaccidity takes place, gas cell closes up. But when turgidity takes place, stomata opens up. Okay, now let's move on. The next point is humidity. What is humidity? Is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. So the higher the humidity of the atmosphere, the slower the rate of transpiration. The higher the humidity of the atmosphere, the slower the rate of what? Transpiration. Okay, while the lower the humidity, the higher the rate of what? Transpiration. The slower the rate of transpiration, higher the humidity, the slower the rate of transpiration. While the lower the humidity, the higher the rate of transpiration. So if water is high in the atmosphere, definitely we will not be having higher transpiration. Now, temperature is another factor. Increase in temperature gives rise to high rate of transpiration. Okay, while low temperature gives rise to low rate of transpiration. So the higher the temperature, the higher the transpiration. The lower the temperature, the lower the transpiration. Now, light is another one. High light intensity results in high rate of photosynthesis. High light intensity results to high rate of what? Photosynthesis. Of course, that is just very certain, because sunlight or light is a condition necessary for photosynthesis to take place, and consequently leads to the increase in the what? In the temperature, thereby giving rise to higher rates of transpiration and vice versa. We are considering factors that determine transpiration. We've mentioned light, we've mentioned temperature, we've mentioned relative humidity. Okay, now we move on to wind. Wind is another factor that affects transpiration. The higher the rate of speed of the wind, the higher the rate of transpiration, and vice versa. The higher the rate of the speed of the wind, the higher the rate of transpiration. Okay, soil water. The higher the level of soil water, that is another factor that affects transpiration. Soil water. The higher the level of soil water, the higher the rate of absorption, and consequently the higher the rate of transpiration, and vice versa. The higher the level of soil water, the higher the rate of absorption, and consequently the higher the rate of transpiration and vice versa. So if the water level is low, trust me, that's what you are going to have. Now, importance or advantages of transpiration in plants. Number one, it enables the plant to absorb water and mineral salts from the soil. It enables the plant to absorb water and mineral salts from the plant. It facilitates the movement of soil water because it has to be in a continuous flow. The evaporation of water, it also facilitates the evaporation of water due to transpiration from the plants. It also cools the plant, and that's another function. It cools the plant. It helps to remove excess water from the atmosphere. Those are the four functions or benefits of transpiration in plants. It cools the plant, it removes excess water from the atmosphere, okay? It enables the plants to absorb water and mineral salts. It facilitates soil water. Now, the conditions, the factors that determines transpiration are size of the stomata pore, okay, temperature, humidity, okay, we have light, we have wind, and we have soil water. Now, we have studied the advantages also, which we have stated. Now, let's move on to translocation. Please note that when we say transpiration deals with water, but translocation deals with manufactured food, glucose, starch, and all those. Now, translocation is the process by which manufactured food substance, of course glucose, are transported from where they are manufactured to tissues where they are needed or stored. Just like in human being, the same thing in plants, okay? The leaf is the site of production. The leaf is the